You're listening to the Trading Through Coronavirus podcast with me, Nigel Barker, brought to you from Business West. Actually, it's not. It's actually brought to you from my home office. But we're all doing that now, right? Yeah, we're all good with that? Excellent. Anyway, last week, bit of a crazy week. It was certainly a lot of things changed during the course of the week, and there seemed to be a lot of concerns amongst businesses. But at the end of the week, I did actually promise you a feel-good story. I wasn't able to quite get that out to you last week because it was so busy. So I thought we'd start this week with it. And last week, I did actually chat to Simon Talbot from Bristol-based manufacturing company P3 Medical. And I asked Simon, just for the benefit of anybody that hasn't heard of P3, if he could just explain a little bit about what they manufacture.
P3 is a medical device company, and we are primarily a manufacturer. We manufacture a whole range of devices which go into surgical procedures, and a big chunk of those products are involved in what we call airway management, which is right at the heart of the current battle against corona.
Okay. And obviously you're a manufacturing company. How have you, just outside of the coronavirus thing, how have you kind of sort of survived in the world when obviously a huge number of businesses are importing all of their stock in from China?
So what we've tried to do over the years is to find products in a bit of a sweet spot. If you imagine the huge volume products that get used in the hospital, things like gloves and syringes and so on, almost all of that now is in China or another low-cost country. Then at the other end, you've got things like heart valves and maybe prosthetic joints, which are very, very high-tech, perhaps lower volume, but very difficult to access. And in between those two extremes, there's a sort of a sweet spot where you can make a difference in terms of design, product features, maybe the clinical benefit, but not be such high volume that you get swallowed up by China. So it's really a whole range of those products that we look for. And we work with clinicians, we work with anaesthetists, surgeons, and so on, trying to develop something which is different enough to allow us to survive.
How challenging has it been to run a manufacturing plant, a manufacturing company, in a time where we're now practicing social distancing? People are referring to lockdown. How much of a challenge has that been?
It's been tough. I guess I would rather be in that situation where we're dealing with an increase in orders and having to balance that against a diminished workforce. And we've got the same sort of absenteeism as everybody else. But from my experience, it's much easier to deal with demand than it is to deal with an empty factory. And nobody likes to have a factory without orders. So if I had to choose between those two challenges, I would take the current one in terms of trying to get product out of the door rather than having to deal with people that don't have enough work to do.
And you've just been awarded quite a big contract to supply the Nightingale Hospital in Excel. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, absolutely right. And that is, nobody wants to see the sort of pain and suffering which has been going on, but to actually see our stuff going into that new site, which has been an incredible achievement to get that up and running in the time that they did, and to actually see P3 boxes going in there, I have to say I was pretty proud of that. And all of that is made cradle to grave in Bristol.
Brilliant. How did that order come about? Did you approach them or did they approach you?
No, there's a fairly well-established supply chain into the NHS where we would be routinely routing product out into the hospitals via a central organisation which is called NHS Supply Chain, not surprisingly. And basically what we see is a big spike in the normal order volume that we would be getting from supply chain, and the explanation is that product is going into basically any hospital which is trying to fight the coronavirus, and a particular batch which is sort of ring fenced for the XL.
How's it actually panned out that you were dealing with that massive increase in demand at a time when you've got a reduced workforce?
Very difficult, and we've obviously looked at shift patterns, overtime, juggling work between one order and another. There is a little bit of a payback, if you like, in terms of a lot of the product that we produce would normally be used in what's referred to as elective surgery, so elective surgery that can be postponed, something which is perhaps not life-threatening, you can put off, and we know that there's at least a 3-month hold on elective procedures. So some of our volume will drop off as that works through the system, and we can redeploy people into the airway products which are being pulled out of the system at such an incredible rate. Brilliant.
Just obviously, there's going to be a lot of business owners out there, that are really concerned. And what advice would you have for them, if any, about getting through these next few months, especially maybe in the manufacturing arena?
Well, I think that the government support package looks quite incredible. Now, because we're a medical business, we haven't had to resort to any of that, because if anything, I'm almost ashamed to say it's actually benefited us in the short term. But it seems to me that if you exploit all of those government support packages, things like furlough, the additional bank finance and so on, assuming that the banks play ball, which I'm hearing not all of them are being that helpful. But I would imagine that for let's say a non-medical business, and anybody who can exploit those government schemes and just keep solvent and alive long enough for this thing to blow over, that would be my first recourse. And I think if our volume of sales had dropped off, that's the first thing I would have been doing, is trying to say, well, look, how can we balance the books until the crisis starts to subside a little bit?
And how has technology played its part in your day-to-day running of the business? Now, presumably a lot of your staff are working from home, except for people on the manufacturing floor plant.
That's absolutely right. And we were quite lucky in some ways, in as much as we'd moved all of our IT systems into the cloud some years ago. So they are accessible from anywhere. So working from home, or even working from Starbucks is if that was open, is pretty easy. So the only people we have had to drag into work are the people who are actually on the front line manufacturing things, the real hands-on production staff. And I can't speak highly enough of them for battling in and keeping going. The vast majority of them have really fronted up and are helping, because they appreciate that what they're doing is actually going into the front line, as it were. But certainly systems-wise, business admin, if you like, I can't see that we could be much better set up than we are.
Brilliant. Simon, it's really good to hear a positive news story at a time when a lot of people are quite anxious. I know you're working from home, so thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
It's a pleasure, and good luck to everybody out there battling it.
Simon Talbot there from 3P Medical. And on the subject of medical supplies, there's still a nationwide call out for anyone that can supply PPE equipment to the frontline services, hospitals, care homes, and in fact anyone that's on the front line with the general public. We'll share the links regarding that on our website, which you can check at www.tradingthroughcoronavirus.co.uk, or follow the hashtag #tradingthroughcoronavirus. Don't forget to subscribe. Whilst it's still a stressful time, we'll get through this together. And if we can help at all, then please just get in touch. Stay safe, stay home, and speak to you tomorrow.